In this episode, I'm going to talk about changing culture and that one size doesn't fit all for every organization. And, uh, you know, with regards to changing culture, I've been on both sides of the equation with regards to buyouts and mergers and things of that sort. And you know it's just a truth that the new group, the buyer of a company, will tend to flex their muscles when they're purchasing a company. Now, I was part of one buyout where the existing company that I was working with actually had a big boat anchor around their neck with regards to the corporate atmosphere, and this was a division that was being sold off. But that doesn't matter to the new company, unfortunately. If they had dug a little bit deeper, they would have uncovered that the reason that our division wasn't profitable was because of some centralization that had been done through the parent company. But you know, when it's like you hold power over this group that you're buying, and they couldn't have been doing anything right because we're buying them, and so there's always going to be that tug with regards to mergers and acquisitions. Um, but the whole point of this conversation, I'm actually going to use this episode in both the effective executive and the Deming lens, because it fits in both categories. And you know, no no one size fits all with regards to culture and what you need to do in mergers and acquisitions. So let's just take a couple of uh, current scenarios. We have Disney, and I've written about that ad nauseum. There's a lot of different uh, posts that I've done, episodes that I've done about Disney, and then you have Twitter on the other side, and it's a different situation. These are two different things, and treating them both the same way is not a good outcome for those particular organizations. Now, one, Disney is profitable. Now their stock's down, but they are profitable. They aren't hitting their targets per se, their quarterly targets, but they're a profitable organization. Twitter, different situation. They weren't profitable when Elon Musk came in and purchased them. And there's a whole series of things associated, obviously, with the Twitter acquisition that are much different than what Disney. But they do have one thing in common in a different lens, and that is they both ignore their customers. In the case of Disney, ignoring the parents. In the case of Twitter, they were ignoring half the population. Um, you know, with the split between basically Democrats, Republicans, left, right, conservative, liberal, whatever you want to call it, and that's their right to do. If they're going to be profitable doing that, awesome. Then that should have remained their audience, but they weren't. And Elon came in with a whole different set of principles associated with his vision of what Twitter would become. Now, I was recently going back. I was reading. Someone had posted at the Deming Institute about layoffs are a failure of management, and for me, one of the things that Dr. Deming, I believe, misses is the broader systems at work. Now, I'm not going to say he wasn't aware of them, but W. Edwards Deming, uh, you know, needed to split out things a little bit more. He hit upon them. In other words, he recognized that um, the systems, the broader systems that were at work, like uh, healthcare costs, cost of litigation, education, all of those things play a role in a particular company. So to me, I split it out into three things. There's larger systems at work that are affecting how organizations are operating. Then there's the company or organization itself. And then there's the individual. And all three of those things require different types of actions associated with it. It gets really rather complicated, but it doesn't really need to be. What we have going in today's world is the larger systems have gotten more power than what the company or organization can control, or they're being controlled by these larger systems like education, like the cost of health care, like the cost of litigation, and a video I did for the Deming Lens on energy, and upcoming videos about ESG and DEI and all these things. There are broader systems at work that are affecting how a company and organization, and I don't think you can ignore them any longer. You have to address some of these broader systems, whether they're political or not, doesn't matter. That you're going to have to look at them because they're having such an influence. Where back in Dr. Deming's day, government played much smaller role, other than in the militarily during World War II, in which he participated and helped win. But Dr. Deming didn't experience the types of things we're talking about today between communism and socialism and capitalism and things of that sort. And these are systemic, larger systems that, when compromised, will compromise basically what a company can or cannot do. And so these are the things I think that, when we say layoffs are a failure of management, well, in this article at the Deming Institute, talking about, Dr. Deming did talk about it, I believe it was Out of the Crisis, the first major book that he wrote in the early mid 80s, that bad loans was the problem. Problem wasn't an error by a teller or any of those things, but the problem was bad loans. Well, I'm going to be doing a video about the GFC, the Great Financial Crisis, and bad loans, because if we all watched The Big Short, what you discovered in The Big Short was that banks were greedy, and that's what caused the whole financial mess. Well, it goes back more than that, and it goes back to these bad loans that the banks were doing. But what was the system that was allowing the bad loans happening for banks? Why was there so much free money out there, and why was this being promoted? And like I said, if you subscribe to the Deming Lens, I'm going to get into this much more deeply. I've done a lot of research on it, and what happened and how the situation was beyond just bad loans at the company level. And, it was easy money, and people were after that easy money in order to gain profits. Now, could a bank have stopped that? Absolutely. But when you have the government participating in easy money, then, through later things like quantitative easing that have created the situations that we have today, then, you've got to look at these broader systems that are causing the environment, the system that is being affected. So one of the things you have to look at with regards to changing culture, and let's just take Twitter here for a minute, but is the purpose. So, originally the purpose seemed to be a way of doing the government's bidding on Twitter, and keeping Hunter's laptop out and things of that sort. Now, whatever you think about that, it's basically been uncovered by some of the tweets that Elon Musk is saying is, hey, there's a lot of, if you're conservative, you're going to get canceled on Twitter. In the previous administration in Twitter, the executives there, and if you were on the left, no matter how bad you were going to be able to stay on there as long as you had the right message. So that was the environment he was walking into, much different than Disney. And Elon has always called this called for Twitter to be more of a free speech platform. Vivek Ramaswamy, another person that's advocated for freedom of speech in general. And again, I'll get in much deeper into these things on the Deming lens, but we got to remember that that we got to split these things out into larger systems, company org, the individual, and Deming was primarily focused with the company and organization and how do I make that operate well. And the larger systems he was concerned with were education, cost of healthcare, cost of litigation, those types of things that he saw as inhibitors for the U.S. to be able to compete nationally, or excuse me, globally. And so Deming wasn't really having to fight those broader systems because he didn't have to. America had won the war, and everybody pretty much wanted to try and copy the success of the U.S. in their manufacturing coming out of World War II, whether it was deserved or not. In some cases, absolutely. There were some things that were done correctly, like the work of W. Edwards Deming, some engineering feats that were accomplished in that. So what's changed is that these broader systems impacting the company and the company and the organizations on a much higher level, because we're fighting about really fundamental things, especially here in the U.S. over the capitalism, the communism, the socialism. So Musk was concerned with free speech and another important thing, making money, and something that Twitter, in their current state when he took them over, didn't value. It wasn't something that they seemed, and this is kind of a offshoot of this whole free money type of mindset where, well, the government's helping fund, loans to underserved communities or the poor, or however you want to put it, and that created the situation for monies to be available for bad loans. And so when Musk comes in, he needs to change the values that are there. And I think, and again, I'm not privy to any inside information, but my belief is that it became pretty evident to Elon Musk that all of the employees are pretty much cut from the same cloth. That censorship was okay, and making money. We got free lattes down in the break room, type of thing, and these extravagant headquarters that nobody went to. So he's fighting a much different cultural battle than, let's say, Disney is. And like I said, from all this, they were losing money, and one of the things he wanted to do was make it profitable and a free speech platform. So existing staff really represented more of the same thinking. Now, my approach would have been much different than what Elon Musk did, but I also don't know anything about what he knew before he even purchased it. I know in purchases they're talking to people. There's the mole type of thing. Those are real things in acquisitions. People that are in that organization, or a number of circumstances where you can get information about how the company is being run. But my approach would have been, before layoffs, let's figure out how the system works, right? And what I need in order to run that particular system. And, ideally, as I've put in other episodes, the idea of layoffs, that the executives take a hit, and then, we eliminate the bonuses, maybe eliminate the dividend, all those types of things makes sense when it's the same management that you have in the organization. If it's a different management via a merger or acquisition, totally different type of situation. And like I said, there's the tendency for the buyer to flex the muscles. That's just, that's nature. Now, is it right? Some cases it is. And I believe in this case, for the complete and utter change of what Musk was trying to achieve at Twitter, that he just knew that in order to make it profitable, he was going to have to lay off a lot of people, and then taking a 50 to 60% salary cut for the employees wasn't wouldn't be enough, and they wouldn't be able to live in San Francisco. That's for sure. And he did address the executives that were there, knew they weren't the people that he wanted for what he was trying to build with free speech and making money. So, again, I would have looked to understand the skills first in the organization, understand how the system is operating. It doesn't take forever, and maybe Elon Musk knew something in there about the skills that were required to make Twitter function on a daily basis. Um, Plus the fact that his change was to making money and free speech. We're talking about a complete overhaul in the thinking, the culture, the way that the organization is run. And so this is Elon Musk. He, like it or not, it's his company, so he can pretty much do what he wants. I'm an advocate of free speech on the platform. I do believe we need that, as messy as it is, that social interaction amongst people, so we can talk about what the differences are between being a communist country and a socialist country and a capitalist, and they all have problems associated with it. But the bottom line here is, whether it's Disney or Twitter or any other company, one size does not fit all. And even with regards to Deming's thinking that I advocate for regarding, the executives taking the hit first, that the dividend takes the hit first. When it's a merger or acquisition, depending on how drastic the change is, the approach is going to be have to adjust in accordance with it. But anyway, that's what I wanted to cover this week. It's been a big topic, obviously, with Disney changing CEOs and the takeover of Twitter and all the fallout associated with it. So leave me your thoughts below about what you think about the changes and maybe the approaches. Is there something to learn from this? I believe so. But remember, there is always a better way.